Jeremy Kennedy from McCullough Robertson.
Yes.
Partner with them. Thanks for joining us at Hunter Business Insider.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
We're going to delve into the commercial law side of the Hunter Valley now. But we might start with where you started and first job.
My first job was with a law firm in Sydney called Turner Freeman, who were a union-based law firm, and my first supervising solicitor was Robert McClelland, who is the former Federal Attorney General.
Indeed.
After the last reshuffle. That was my first job, working with him, doing union-based industrial relations work.
Fantastic. Yes. And have been in and out of Newcastle for about 12 years?
12 or 13 years,
yeah.
Yes, correct. I was originally asked by a partner of a law firm in Sydney to come up for 12 months to help them out, and ended up staying for about 8 or 9 years before I went away for a couple of stints interstate.
And back now to head up this new, relatively new office in Newcastle.
Correct, yes. Okay. Back to God's country.
Okay, stop the selling. So what did you bring to Newcastle when you came back 2 or 3 years ago?
Well, I had experience in setting up new offices for major national law firm practices. So in Adelaide, I set up a practice there from scratch. I guess skills in practice development, client development, understanding new business, and being able to analyse a geographical location. And then that was one challenge. That was my first challenge, and then I moved across to Melbourne, and it was a completely different challenge. It was a rebuild challenge, in that the firm that I worked for had lost a number of people, and eight lawyers out of one team, and in 6 months, and it was a rebuild project, which was completely different to starting from scratch.
Okay. Well, coming back to Newcastle, what surprised you about when you are heading up a practice or heavily involved in the management of the practice? Were there surprises there?
The biggest surprise was they still had not figured out what was happening with the rail line into Newcastle. I thought that may have been sorted out, but then there's 20 years or more history in relation to that.
Indeed, and maybe 20 more. Hopefully not. If both of us can combine. Business Insider has kind of pledged to Karen Howard that we're going to get that resolved in 12 to 18 months.
Yes, so. Well, I would hope that someone can do something about it quickly.
Probably won't be us.
Because I think it is a very large stone hanging around the neck of Newcastle and Newcastle businesses, particularly with a focus around retail in the CBD.
In the south.
And I think it's holding up a lot of commercial activity. There are lots and lots of sites that are just decrepit and rotting away, and for money to get put back into the CBD, I think the rail line has to come to a head, and there's got to be some decision made.
Indeed.
It's not got to be about the politics, it's got to be about what's good for Newcastle.
And the broader valley, but
yes.
What's good for Newcastle will help the broader valley as well, I suspect. So.
Yes. I can understand the arguments, particularly from the pollies who are up the valley, in terms of access to the CBD of Newcastle, but let's face it, as it currently stands, most people are going to do their shopping in other commercial centres in Newcastle, not into Newcastle.
No, it has changed drastically in the last 20 years. Indeed. Commercial law in Newcastle, a tough area, but big clients up here, especially in the resources sector.
Yes. Well, our office was created solely for the purpose to service resources sector clients, so the miners, the contractors to the miners, and the infrastructure to the mining companies. And that was a decision made by our firm, who are predominantly Queensland based, to follow our clients and to service our clients in the Hunter, but to commit to Newcastle and use Newcastle people, Newcastle lawyers, build Newcastle relationships. So the recruitment of our lawyers has been focused on Newcastle people from other firms in Newcastle, and graduate lawyers from Newcastle University.
We should say you've just been there talking to a group of
I have.
Budding students.
Yes, 60 fourth year law students at Newcastle University who are studying law. Yes, I've just been talking to them about servicing business clients believe it or not, and the expectations and of business and how lawyers can assist clients in terms of their business, growing their business, assisting with their goals.
What's changing in the way solicitors and lawyers relate to clients now, as far as you guys are concerned?
I think there's a move away from lawyers trying to do work that's based upon charging by the hour, so hourly rates or time costing, and trying to take a bit of skin in the game with fixed fees and assisting clients in knowing what their legal expenditure is going to be by fixing their fees at a certain level. So we've got to take a certain amount of risk in relation to that, and we have to be skilled enough to be able to judge what a matter or some particular type of advice is going to actually cost from a commercial point of view. But it gives the clients some surety around what their legal expenditure is going to be. That's one of the big changes. So that change in terms of how we charge clients, how we service clients is changing also. Many years ago when I first started out, it was all about letters and correspondence, and you get a big pile of correspondence every morning from your secretary and you'd sort through that. Now it's about instantaneous communication and an expectation from clients that you give that instantaneous communication, whether it's via email, whether it's via telephone, but you have to be there, you have to be responsive to your clients. It's pretty much a 24/7 role now, particularly when you're at a higher level. When you're a partner, clients will ring you around the clock, more particularly the resources sector clients who operate around the clock, and they expect you to be there to answer their call, to assist in answering their problems. If they have a big issue, to be able to make the commitment to get in the car and to be on site immediately. And that's one of the reasons why our firm has chosen geographically to set up in the Hunter, so that we are close to our clients, so that we can give them that level of service that other firms who may provide them with legal services in Sydney or Brisbane or other places, they don't have that opportunity to give them that geographical service.
That's cool. And it is real, that need for on the ground. The other reality, which I'm impressed with, is the being smart enough or wise enough to work out what the costs are going to be. So there is some certainty, barring other acts of God, I guess, that's where the legal costs will be. A great move forward.
Yeah, there are certain, we enter into fee agreements with clients which we try to be creative on in terms of giving them discounts for certain types of work. In terms of the amount of work that they give us, we may give percentage.
This is fresh air to a lot of clients, I would think. Like, it's cool for a lot of clients, isn't it?
Yeah, clients like it because we are being creative in the way that we bill them, and they like it because it shows that we're committed to them and to their industry, particularly if it means that we're taking skin in the game on a particular project. The pressure is on us to be able to be on time and on cost, like any other contractor that they may use for a particular project.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Over the next 2 years, do you have, I guess, some issues within your industry that you'd love to see tackled?
I wouldn't say so much in the legal industry. I would say in the industry, particularly the resources sector that we service, there are big issues which I think are coming to the forefront. The carbon tax is one. Native title is another. The conflict between land use, between agricultural land use, between mining land use, more particularly in the Hunter Valley, New South Wales coal seam gas, and the conflicts around that are big issues for our clients, and therefore they have to be big issues for us. And we have to have a firm understanding, not just of the legal aspects, but of the political and moral issues associated with that.
Mm. And coal seam gas seems particularly badly handled from just about every area, from government to, I guess, there have been some opportunistic miners in the area, but now seem to be weeded out. Is that part of that communications process, or?
I think most miners and potential coal seam gas explorers and providers know full well that there are issues with respect to the process that has been used, the process of fracking, as I understand it, can potentially damage water supplies, and that conflicts directly with agricultural land use. That has been an issue in other states. I don't think it has been a particular issue in New South Wales, but I guess there has been a lot of, I wouldn't say scaremongering, but there has been a lot of
sin by association. Almost.
Correct, yes. And also in the US, I mean, it's a big issue in the US as well, where there's a much longer history of that particular process being used to obtain coal seam gas. But I think the players in New South Wales, some of whom are our clients, take a very responsible approach to how they obtain the gas and are engaged in community consultation in relation to the projects that they're looking at undertaking. Mm-hmm. It's a balance, I think. It's a balance about commercial and commercial interests, sustainability, both in terms of our environment and in terms of communities and jobs for areas where coal seam gas or coal or any other mineral may be, particularly in the Hunter.
Indeed. We'll talk about balance for a minute. You have come back for a third child to be born in the Hunter Valley?
Yes.
Is there a fourth?
No, there will not be a fourth.
We don't usually go that personal, but I think for your wife's sake, for your partner's sake, she should watch this just to have that confirmed. She probably knows already. The work-life balance, it's 24 hours a day, being available and accessible. Is there a work-life balance, or you manage it as it comes?
I think that a lot of people talk about work-life balance and give it platitudes. I think work-life balance is really a personal issue. It's not something that you can really sell to people as a point of difference for getting them to come and work in your business. I think it is something that you have to do as an individual, and you have to make some decisions about how you balance your career, your life, your family, and act accordingly. One of the key reasons that my wife and I and our young family decided to move back to the Hunter was around work-life balance. There aren't many other places in Australia where you can work in an office doing work for large national clients, quality legal work, and at lunchtime go for a surf at the beach. There aren't very many of those places. There aren't many places where you can drive within 20 minutes of your home and you're at the beach. You can drive within half an hour, 40 minutes and you're at a vineyard having a beautiful glass of wine, or at a great holiday destination like Port Stephens. Hunter Valley is an amazing place and is a terrific place to bring up a young family.
We need to sell this little piece to Newcastle Now and Newcastle and Hunter Tourism. It's a good summation.
Yes.
Jeremy, employing young solicitors and legal professionals here in the Hunter, I guess, comes with its own issues and opportunities. How do you guys approach that process?
Well, it's not without its challenges, I can say that. I guess we've had a multifaceted approach to obtaining the right people. Ultimately, we wanted to staff our office with people from the Hunter who knew the Hunter area. So we've looked at recruiting people from other law firms in the Hunter. We've looked at recruiting some very fine quality lawyers from national law firms in Sydney and Brisbane who grew up in the Hunter, have family connections to the Hunter, and studied perhaps in Newcastle and wanted to move back here for work-life balance, family reasons. So we have quite a young team of lawyers that we've recruited. Lots of those people have moved back to the Hunter after having started their careers with big firms in Sydney or even been overseas internationally. So the difficulty is how do we find those people, and that is the challenge in finding those people. So word of mouth is one thing. Obviously we use recruiters as well, but generally nothing is better than knowing those people. So it's through contacts. They're probably the mid-level people that we have, the senior associates who are the guys on the ground providing the advice. And then of course there's that level below them, which are the graduate lawyers, the people that we want to train. And we have particular programs in-house We have a graduate program where those young graduates do a 6-monthly rotation in various practice areas. At the moment we have a graduate who has rotated with me doing workplace work, and she's now on rotation doing work of a contractual infrastructure type nature and really enjoying it. She's off on secondment to a client in CIG for 3 or 4 months. So we try and give them that on the ground experience.
Fantastic.
My own people, I've just had one of my staff up at a coal mine for 2 weeks doing work experience, so non-chargeable, non-billable work. She was on site. They were utilising her to assist them with legal issues, but at the same time she was being carted around the mine, shown all the different aspects of the mine, and got to walk the walk and talk the talk and understand the business of the client. So it's not just about getting their technical skills, it's getting their understanding of industry and the particular industries that we're focused on, which is very important for us, because that to us is what it's about in servicing our clients, and that's understanding their business and understanding their issues.
Much better service being delivered from
Yes.
someone who understands the client and the business.
And building relationships with those people, the key people, because it might be a business to business relationship, but really when you cut through all of the business names and things, it's about people dealing with people and people relationships.
We now give everyone the opportunity to get on a soapbox to have a bit of a rant about what you would like to see changed in business generally. Is there something that causes you some concern?
I guess as a lawyer who has practiced in industrial law and employment law, I guess one thing that really concerns me is the level of regulation that we currently have. The Fair Work Act, in my view, is hamstringing lots of businesses and business investment. I think the review of the Fair Work Act, which is currently occurring, is something that needs to happen. I think we have seen the full swing of the pendulum back towards union power, and I don't think we have really felt the full brunt of that in the Hunter Valley, particularly in the resources sector, because we have the two-speed economy, and that shows in the Hunter. Where
we have two-speed economy right here, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yeah, you just have to look at the CBD of Newcastle and retail. Look at what's happening in the valley in terms of the resources sector. They just can't get enough people, whereas small businesses that aren't related to the resources sector are very much struggling. And I think one of the issues in relation to that is the laws under the Fair Work Act and the new modern awards. It's killing retailers. The modern awards, the amount that they have to pay to have their staff there, the minimum amounts of time that they have to employ their staff for, just means that it's not commercially viable. And some businesses are having to work, some owners of small businesses are having to work extraordinarily long hours because they can't afford to employ staff to staff it up. And I think there'll be some repercussions that'll fall out of that. I think it's really going to affect small to medium enterprises. Whereas the other side is that, with the large mining sector, the shortage of jobs, we're not seeing any real hard industrial action under the Fair Work Act, although the powers are there. We're seeing it in other sectors, but not in the mining sector. So I think we have been a little bit costed from the effects of the Fair Work Act in the Hunter Valley. Because the resources sector is booming and there's lots of money being paid for people who do essentially trade jobs. And that's the other big issue, is that the resources sector is pulling all of those people out of other businesses, other industrial type businesses that service other sectors into the resources sector. And those businesses can't compete with the wages and the salaries that are being offered in the resources sector. So a shortage of people and the right people, it's affecting the resources sector because they have to pay big wages to get the people because of market demands, but it's affecting other industry because they can't find people to do work at the general rates that are payable either under the awards or just above.
Indeed, indeed. Jeremy, really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.